everybody. Welcome to the Mojave Desert, about 20 minutes, a little bit north and east of the city that never sleeps. And one thing we know about a desert winter, oftentimes the winds don't sleep, or as a matter of fact, do the temperatures. They are downright brisk. It is really windy here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway as the Indy Autonomous Challenge returns to a prime position with the CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. And, of course, these robots are going to be putting on a remarkable show of their own right here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Again, these are full-on Indy Next cars with tremendous speed potential. But you'll look in those cockpits, there is no helmet, no driver. It is all electronics. And that is what makes the Indy Autonomous Challenge so very special. Great to have you all joining us here, and we are really looking forward to this one getting going here. And we've got an interesting format that's going to be unfolding here this event. And for more on that, I'd like to get down to the other member of our broadcast team, Shay Adams. Shay, what have you heard? I'm looking forward to this one.
Hey, Greg, I'm looking forward to this one, too. It's the fourth time that these cars have run at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And for that, we've introduced a different system. It's a three-tiered event for today's running. Half an hour for each of the tiers to go out. The first one are for the newest teams to join the Indy Autonomous Challenge. So that will be the California-based team and the Indiana-based team. But then we move into the second tier, which is for teams with a little bit more experience. That's a more traditional run. The first tier, I should say, by the way, is a speed test. That one is go as fast as you can go. The winner will be whichever of those cars can indeed put down a faster speed. The second tier is the passing challenge. That's what you and I have been more accustomed to seeing. But it's the third tier that everyone's really excited for, because that has 4 cars out on track at the same time. It's going to be a 20-lap race in essence, but it's more of an exhibition. It's a demonstration. The first time ever that 4 cars will be on track at the same time with no drivers. These are autonomous drivers. So really cool event that we have for everybody today. The wind might be affecting my hair, Greg, but it's not affecting these race cars yet. We are good to go.
Yeah, it's definitely breezy, but they're excited about it for sure, and they're going to have to be mindful of it. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But to officially kick this off, please rise and remove your cover as it is time for our national anthem. All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And now it is time for us to introduce to you the teams that are taking part in today's Indy Autonomous Challenge competitions. It is a team comprised of, oftentimes from various universities, a staff member, a professor that will be working and coordinating with students who do immensely amazing work with coding for these cars. So let's start with, from Purdue University, it will be Purdue AI Racing. Great to have them with us and looking forward to the competition. Next, we will meet from the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, Team Keist. Then from Politecnico di Milano and Michigan State University and the University of Alabama, it's Polymove. MSU, that's Michigan State University. They have been one of the top teams in this competition for some time now. Another one of the top teams is next up from the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia. It's Unimore Racing. Then we move to the next team from the University of California, Berkeley, with the University of Hawaii, University of California, San Diego, and Carnegie Mellon University, AI Racing Tech. Next, we will move to, from the California Institute of Technology, Cast Racer. Then we will go to a team that at the the most recent round last fall at Indianapolis became the first U.S.-based team to win the outright speed competition. Welcome from the University of Virginia, Cavalier Autonomous Racing. That was an amazing run they put together at Indianapolis. Also from the Indiana area, from Indiana University, welcome IU Luddy. And our final team is from Auburn University. It's Autonomous Tiger Racing. And as you can see from all the smiling faces and trying to stay warm out there, that is the team that actually makes the car do what it does, but with no driver behind the wheel. It is all done through coding. And once the car, and this is key, once the car starts its run, there is no signaling that can come from the pits other than when you have to make a mandatory speed increase to the next level in one of the competitions. They can simply say, hit the code and go, okay, pick up 10 miles an hour. But the rest is done by the cars, and we'll be explaining that a little bit more as we get ready to go. But with that, it's time for me to get it back down. In just a minute here, we are going to get this one going. But getting back to what I was saying is, the coding is all done. And in the cockpit of these cars, there is all kinds of high-tech autonomous robotic technology, radar, LiDAR, super high-end GPS and GNSS that all comes together along with optics that will help the car make its own decisions on how to drive around the track. Now, they can program in a sort of a line sequence and tell the car this is where you want to pursue, but it's all done through the coding. And we're going to see how that plays out right now. It is time to head back down to Shea Adam for that most famous command in motorsports.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your software.
That's a unique call, probably unique only to the Indy Autonomous Challenge. And here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, this is what in NASCAR parlance would be a medium super speedway. Really quick, but not as long as, say, the 2.5 miles at Daytona or 2 miles. This one is a little bit shorter, but it still has remarkable speeds. And look at the banking back there. When we were at Indy, nowhere near this level of banking. And this is a true tri-oval. You have turns 1 and 2, which is really one long corner. Then the back chute, then turns 3 and 4, which is one long corner. And then you come up into the tri-oval section of the track. And this is a little bit different. But again, a lot of these teams have been here before. But they're dealing with 22 degrees of banking in these turns, 9 degrees of banking through the tri-oval and down the back stretch. And they are going to have to be mindful of this wind. And what the wind does, if you're not familiar with aerodynamics on a car, it is basically what it does is it generates downforce. The wings, the underbody of the car are like an upside down airplane wing. And as you build speed, it pushes it down onto the track. But if you're into a headwind, it speeds that up a little bit, so the car has a lot more downforce or stick, but it also creates drag, so it's slower in a straight line. Conversely, if you have a tailwind into the corner, you lose some of that downforce. You're going to have a lot more straight line speed, but the cars have to, through their coating, and look at that, setting off under its own power, our first car, and that's the Caltech machine making its way out. And again, the teams decided who was going to run each discipline. If you decided to run the speed challenge, that is where you will run. Then you won't be doing the passing challenge or the exhibition race challenge. But the cars have to keep into account not just what they're seeing visually and with the LiDAR and the radar and all of that info about where they are on the track and what pattern to use through the turns, coming onto the straights, through the tri-oval. They also have to be measuring wind speeds and note, okay, we've got a headwind. We're not going to have the top end, but we can maybe go a little bit deeper into the corner before we have to bleed off some speed. Conversely, if you're heading into a turn with a tailwind, you're going to be going a bit quicker than you normally would, so you have to get rid of some of that speed just a little bit sooner. But that's what this whole idea of the Indy Autonomous Challenge is. The challenge is the key word there. It is challenging these students and their staff directors to continue to develop and hone this autonomous technology that allows these cars to go and do this on their own. And there are some people, of course, who will say, well, why would you do this? We like the idea of the drivers in the cars. That's what, makes it exciting. Well, this is not here to replace racing, but what it is here is there's no place like a racing setting to speed up the development of technology that can then be applied into road cars. People talk about eventually having, autonomous taxis, that sort of thing, where you just hop in, there's no driver, tell it where to go, it automatically programs it and then does it. Well, it's that sort of thing where this development is going. And of course, it's not just in the automotive world where a lot of the technology they're working on here can apply. It can bleed over into lots of different disciplines. So the Caltech machine out, and again, this is part of the speed challenge. And what it's all about is just to figure out how fast these cars can go. And at a certain point, and believe me, there's there's terabytes of data flowing from the car to the coders and programmers in the pits. And other than basic commands like speed up, slow down, there's nothing else they can do. It's got to be totally autonomous in terms of how the car drives the lap. But there's just massive amounts of data flowing back to those computers. And that's where a lot of the advancement comes, and they can look at it. So then, next opportunity, they can change it up a little bit, make an adjustment for the next competition. And it's also a programming challenge for these students. Yes, they're working on these tremendous robotics, but they are also working on how to improve the coding, how to finesse the coding, make it more efficient, make everything happen quicker so the car can be a little bit more responsive. And you can see for Cast, at first lap, just a tick under 90 miles an hour for a first lap. And you can see how chilly it is right now, folks. Look at that right front tire. You can see that little white band. That is called a sticker, and literally it's the sticker that the tire comes with. And on a warmer day, by now that sticker would be absolutely just ground off of the car. But right now the temperatures are down, and yes, there's some sun out, but you can see a lot of the track is in shadow. So the track is unusually cool. And it's a combination of heat and tire pressure that determines grip. And right now it's just taking a little longer for those stickers to come off. A 100.5 for lap 2. So they are starting to see some speed now. And again, if you watch the Indy coverage, you know that they were running a bit quicker, but one, the track is longer at Indy, and two, there was no wind to speak of at Indy. And it was significantly warmer. We had a little bit of rain, but that just actually brought the track almost into better conditions here. So they're fighting a very heavy wind here and very cool temperatures. But you can see they're almost 120 miles an hour through the corners now. But the amazing thing is, look at the lines these cars are driving. And these are full-on Indy Next, or what used to be called Indy Lights category cars. And it's powered by a Honda K24 turbo engine. It makes around 500 horsepower up on boost. The equipment on board consists of radar, LiDAR, as I said, GPS camera systems. And the car is controlled basically with servos that operate all the inputs from throttle to brake to turning. And of course, those servos are told what to do by the computers and the coding. Look at that, 124 miles an hour coming through the final turn and onto the tri-oval. Lap 5, almost 122 miles an hour. So they are dialing this one up. Running in 4th gear, you can see the RPM. And one of the things that you have to have your mind wrapped around when you're doing the coding for a windy day like this is driving into a headwind. You might want to be running a slightly lower gear because you're not going to have that same straight line speed because of the drag from the wind and the downforce. But look at that, now up into gear 5, and immediately the speeds come up, pushing 140 miles an hour. As they pick up that tailwind, they don't need to have that little bit of extra lug, if you will, from the lower gear. They can go to the higher gear and now let the car flow some speed down the backstretch. And there you can see there is a bit of banking. 141 now in the turns. This should be a really quick lap, probably the last one. What do they do when they cross the line? Are they going to better that 122.3? They did, and by a ton. 11 mile an hour improvement. They're up at 133.129 miles an hour. They might just be looking for a little bit more here. That car autonomously is driving a really nice pattern. And when you're running an oval, you know, on a road course, often you talk about the line. But on an oval, sometimes you're talking more about a pattern. You know, when you're up by the outside wall, when you drop down to that inside where that white line is, and then let it flow out. You see a little bit of a break there. And if you on occasion hear the car do a little chirp, and that 8th lap improved by about 0.4 of a mile an hour. But going into a turn, when you see that red brake light come on, sometimes you'll hear this little chirp sound. That's the wastegate on the turbocharger releasing some of the pressure. is the turbocharger obviously just builds a huge amount of pressure to help build horsepower. And the wastegate, at a certain point, when you lift in a turbo car, you get all the leftover pressure and it'll spike. And if you don't release it, it can be very problematic, and you can actually, it'll be costly in terms of performance. And think of a balloon that's full of air, and then you grab the nozzle and kind of pull it sideways, and you can make it screech. It's a very simple explanation of what's going on. Air under very high pressure escaping through a rather small orifice will create that kind of a sound here. 144.3 on lap 10. Cast is absolutely flying out here. Watching the throttle, you can see when they throttle, the car will sometimes breathe with a little bit of brake. The longer, obviously, you can maintain that throttle, the quicker your laps are going to be. Let's see, what do they put up this time? Oh, they're knocking on the door of 150 in that straight line. And the interesting thing here about aerodynamics and the wings on the cars and the underbodies on these cars is it isn't very effective until you start to get into some serious speed. And once you get into that serious speed, and it looks like their run is coming to a completion here. But once you get into speed, the car actually will handle better, stick to the ground better, because it is the air moving across those wings and under the car through the diffusers on the exit that makes the car generate more and more downforce, it's called. So 144.323 miles an hour for Cast Racing, and that is a great start to this competition. Fabulous job. I'll tell you what, that's a pretty good target for everybody else to have to try and hit here. And then when the run is completed, different signals go to the car. We should also point out that there are also engineers for each team and up in race control that are watching things, but the race director himself or herself can also send signals to the car like yellow flag, red flag, black flag, and the car is automatically programmed to react in a certain way when those commands are given. Oftentimes it's simply slow down and start making your way back to the pits. Sometimes it's a slow down quickly and stop, depending upon what's happening on the track. So there is a lot that these cars are processing. And think about it, folks. The average speed of 143 miles an hour. Think about how quickly the processing has to happen for this car to be able to do this. And that, to me, is the magic, the mystical aspect of this is the speed of the processing. And you add to that the size of the data. Like I said on that run, terabyte upon terabyte of data was getting fed into the pits. But the car was also utilizing the coding, and with the LiDAR, radar, and all of those components, had to decide on its own what line to drive, when to slow down, when to speed up, and in this case, when to make that turn and wander its way down into pit lane. So what a start. Cast Racing throwing out pretty serious number here. Frankly, I always like to see that happen. I like to see a car come out right out of the gate and put up a really stellar time, because that sort of tells everybody else, all right, you better step it up because we're serious here. And man, no question about it, absolutely superb run from California Institute of Technology, running under the banner of Cast Racing. And you can see our next competitor heading out. Brand new set of tires on all four corners. You can see those white stickers. You can also see that white line down the middle. And you really have to, on these, when you have a brand new set of tires like this, you've got the stickers, but there's also a thing on those tires called mold release on the very surface that allows the tire to pop out of the mold. And you've not only got to wear that sticker off, but you also have to wear that mold release off to get down to the actual rubber compounding. And once you get that done, that's when now you will find grip. But the gauntlet has surely been thrown down by these guys, and you can see the congratulations they put in. You know, there was some speculation earlier about, I don't know if we're going to be able to even get up to 120 here with this wind. Because remember, you know, I've been talking about a headwind and a tailwind, but depending upon where you are in the track and in a corner, it can be a side wind. And a side wind can very much unsettle a car that's on the limit. You know, headwind or tailwind, a little bit simpler to deal with. But you get a gust suddenly as you're sideways and right on the limit of adhesion. And if that gust blows you to the outside of a corner, that's when you can see the back end just suddenly come around. That's a car that's loose, if you will, or has a lot of oversteer in it where you turn the front wheels and the back end wants to rotate around. And in other scenarios, you get into a corner, you can have a push, or when a car is what's called tight, where it doesn't want to turn. You turn the wheels, you know, kind of like if you're driving on ice and you just lock your brakes and then turn the wheel. Car's not going to turn. It's just going to keep going straight. Well, that's sort of a push concept. So all of these dynamics have to be in here. And these cars are generally set up with a little bit of push inherent, and I'll explain that in a minute. But first, Shay, what a run by Caltech and Cast Racing.
Well, Greg, you're talking about things being tight. I think their fists were the tightest things ever on the racetrack because everybody was so tense and nervous. You guys survived it, though. Deep sigh of relief. Do you think there was more speed out there in the car?
We'd like to, but sometimes you just you say that look, everything's looking great. We should just run at that, and you come back. It is Vegas. We gambled. We didn't gamble too hard. I think we came back winners from this run. So I think the teams. Thank you very much, team. I think we had a great run. We beat our record by about 20 miles an hour. So that's fast, and we have terrible conditions today being out there. So I am ecstatic. That is better than I could have hoped for.
Congrats to you and the entire team. Great job, guys. Really enjoyed that run.
I love that. It's Vegas. We gambled. And as we were talking about, everybody was concerned, what kind of speeds would we see? And then they beat their record by 20-some miles an hour in these conditions. And that just tells you that they have done their job in terms of refining the coating and making the car a little bit more responsive, a little bit more sensitive, getting the car to do what it has to do a little bit quicker so they can get after it. All right, second competitor here in the speed challenge, IU Luddy. That beautiful red and white number 10. And I told you there was, terabytes of data flowing from the cars to the pits. Well, we're sort of dipping into that feed a little bit and giving you the looks here as to some of the data, throttle settings, brake settings, all that kind of thing here. And again, they're going to be very tentative on these first couple of laps. Again, one, because just of the wind in general, and they want to get this felt out just a little bit about, all right, what are we dealing with here? But the other thing, as I was talking about, is you've got to be a little bit careful here until you get the mold release knocked off the tire. And the other key, and people don't realize this sometimes, that there's a setup on the car that is based on a certain pressure in the tires. And what generates the pressure in the tires is heat in the tires. You know, if you have any understanding of physics, you know that if you heat a gas, it expands. And so you generate the heat expands the gas, and so you'll start off with a little lower pressure in the car than what the absolute nominal or best version of that pressure is for the setup on the car. And then you just gently build the heat in the tires until you get to that point where that pressure is right, and then you can push. Because then you will have an understanding. And there you can take a look at the track here, the shape. And it is a tri-oval, but it's got sort of a little bit of a unique line to it. You know, the turns 1 and 2, not quite the same as 3 and 4. This track has been under a lot of different iterations. When the much beloved Stardust Raceway, which is a road racing track, back in the 60s and 70s, went under, there was a group that said, we need a speedway, we need a track here. And so they came out here, found some land, and started to build on it. But it was 1996 when this current version of Las Vegas Motor Speedway came into existence. First race was an IRL race that was won by Richie Hearn. They had a support race that was a Dodge Shelby Pro Series race, and if any of you remember that, it was 1996. You're serious race fans if you remember Dodge Shelby Pro Series. It was a low-level support series. And I had the honor of coming here and calling that first one, which was technically the first race that ever ran here at this version of Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And, of course, they have NASCAR that's run here. IRL has run here many times. And they've even had IMSA sports cars running on the infield Roval section here. All right, lap 5, we're at 116.7. And you can see the pattern that the IU Luddy car running is a little bit more conservative. Not going as far down to that white line on the inside of the turn, but then exiting the corners, giving themselves a little bit more room to that outside. But now we're seeing corner speeds knocking on the door of 140. And that last lap, now there's the gain, 126.1. Watch that. See the RPM. See, now they're running a higher gear than Cast Racing did, than the Caltech team did. Caltech team ran 4 and 5. These guys have gone into 6 and are just sort of staying there. There you go. Now we're seeing 145.46 as they come out of the final turn up onto the tri-oval. Bit of break there, and they've gone to 135.4. So they have about 3 more laps. They're up over 145 on the straights. Mid-corner staying right in that same realm. This could be another solid lap here. They're about 141.8. So they're just a couple of miles an hour off of our fast lap from Cast Racer. Look at that top speed now, 152. And you can see now, don't see any remnants of those white stickers. Now, there's a couple there, but they're more on that inside, the inside pair of tires. They maintain this 150 plus for a bit here. What's going to 148.6? That is the fastest time. And IU Luddy, one of the newer programs here. And that is a fabulous lap. In these conditions, are you kidding me? This is fantastic stuff. Again, no driver on board this car. the car is, as the key word is, autonomous. It's making its own decisions out there based on the coding that it's had provided. 148, do they better that here? 153.5. That is a stellar lap. Absolutely fly. Look at the grins. Look at the grins from the IU Luddy team. And it's a timed session for how long you can be out there. And they got through those. You know, they got through lap 3, and then they turned the wick up, so they might get one more lap. They're sure going after it. Here we go. Top speed I saw, 162.8 in terms of... So last lap, a 148, so it eased back just a little bit here. They're just sticking with it. They are pushing. Just watch it. I haven't seen them dip beneath 160 on this lap anywhere. Could they crack 160 on this one? Crossing the line. We'll wait to hear. Now they're backing off. Have not heard yet what that last lap was. And even if that lap was really quick, if the time had expired, it wouldn't count. But nonetheless, they were up at 158. That was really, really flying here. IU Luddy doing an absolutely incredible job. I just love seeing the smiles of all the team members there behind the wall. And you know, when you think about a racing event where there are drivers in the cars, you get those smiles, you know, but the crews, they've worked on the setup of the car, and they've got the car to handle. So 158 flat. 158 flat was the best lap for IU Luddy, and I'll tell you again, folks, in these conditions, that is truly remarkable. So impressive. Look at those big diffusers on the back of the car. What those do is, you see those strakes on the back, those the fins, if you will, and they're all tied to and connected to different portions of aero underneath the car. And what they try and do, when you get air underneath the car at speed, it packs up and will create lift, right? It's just pressure builds and it wants to come up. And the idea of those diffusers is it sort of forces that air through a small area and then opens up through those diffusers at the back. And what that does, when it speeds that air up coming out from the back of the car, one, it gets rid of the air from underneath the car, so that lift is gone. And if it speeds that up enough coming out, it creates a little lower pressure area under the car, and that will actually generate more downforce. So there's lots happening on those wings. The wings and the aero on those cars. There was a communication timeout that happened. And that's, the cars have a fail-safe program in them that if they lose all communication, the cars just come to a safe but rapid stop. And the track then goes red, and then whatever has to happen. Oftentimes it's just sort of a reboot, and then the car will put its, work its way back into the pit lane. But tell you, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, pretty impressive setting here out in the Mojave Desert. Mountains all around, and great racing going on here. The Indy Autonomous Challenge as part of CES 2025. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And you can see our IU Luddy car, after that really impressive run, has still come to a stop. So now one of the EV machines that are part of the Las Vegas Motor Speedway will be making its way out and heading out to that car. And again, they've got these protocols built into the coding. When there is a loss of communication, that the car will just stop. And hopefully it can be done with a reset and the like, but every once in a while, things can be a little bit finicky. And so the car just comes and parks. And so have to have somebody go out and retrieve it at this stage. So again, 3 components to what we're seeing here today. The first being these speed runs, or the time trial, if you will. Then we will have a couple of cars on the track for the passing exercise. And then for the first time ever, and that will be purely as an exhibition, for the first time ever, we will have a multi-car race that will be unfolding here. And you can see some of the officials from the Indy Autonomous Challenge heading out, along with some of the track crew here, to try and bring that car in. This is kind of akin, I would think, to the folks at Jet Propulsion Laboratory for the Mars rover, when you get those little stretches where they lose communication with it. And so they try and reprogram it to try and get the communication to come back, and more often than not it happens. But on this one, looks like they're going to have to bring the car in a different fashion here. One of the things that has been a real high point of the Indy Autonomous Challenge is the international part of it. As you can see from our entry list here, we've got lots of international teams that are taking part in it. But these teams have also gone and competed at some of the great tracks around the world. And there is one that is sort of recognized as a speedrome in terms of road course racing, and it's Monza in Italy. And they did make a stop there. Let's enjoy this.
Indy Autonomous Challenge is a series of competitions using the world's fastest autonomous vehicles, and they're loaded up with the absolute best cutting-edge technology. And LiDAR is honestly maybe the most critical piece of sensing technology on these race cars. They're piloted by algorithms, or AI drivers, that are programmed by top research university teams from around the world.
Our main goal is to put on a great show for all the people who come here, to show them autonomous racing and to make them believe in autonomous driving.
We're just hoping to set new records, push boundaries, and continue pushing forward the development of self-driving software.
We're hoping to push the technology even further than we've been doing the last few years in the United States. So we're having this historic event to transition from having only run on ovals to now running on a road course here at Monza.
Participating in Indy Autonomous Challenge not only allows us to take the lessons and apply them to the passenger vehicle market, but it also puts us in these conversations with a lot of the thought leaders in the industry.
Race day is, of course, the day when you push the most, when you remove all of your safety limits that you usually take, when you're gonna give 100%. It's the most dangerous, but also the most rewarding day of all.
We are displaying state-of-the-art hardware technology coupled with state-of-the-art AI. This is a fully autonomous vehicle operating at up to 190 miles per hour around any given racetrack. Is something that's really phenomenal. That really shows you how you can push the limits of autonomy forward.
One of the challenges that we've experienced, because it's a very large track, there's bridges, there's trees, there's other obstacles that causes these intermittent drop-offs in GPS. So teams have been compensating for that using the LiDARs It's not just useful for obstacle detection and vehicle overtaking and passing. It's also critical for localization when other tools are not reliable.
This is why the technology in the LiDAR is so important in the overall ecosystem for any automated driving vehicle.
When you're dealing with high-speed race cars, that's a difficult challenge with regards to capturing those objects. And so what we're doing here is we've actually posted mounted sensors around the track in order to collect data and show there are other applications outside of motor racing. Many of the attributes of the iris sensor that are really good for autonomous driving are fantastic for smart cities.
In Indy Autonomous Challenge, while there is a competition element, it's really about advancing the technology as a community. That feedback loop of what we learn on the track, transferring that back to our industry partners like Luminar and others, creates this wonderful symbiotic relationship between the university talent, the companies, and this motorsports platform that is Indy Autonomous Challenge.
You know, the fact that they're able to do that at a track like Monza, which is a road course with multiple corners, not just all left-handers. They right-handers and corners that are fast, corners that are much slower, all that sort of a thing. The coding for that, and all of the audio, the sensing technology, what they can achieve there is really remarkable to be able to do that. And one of the key things that has become, along with vastly improved optics from a number of years ago, is LiDAR. And, radar, the thing with radar, it uses radio waves to detect objects, right? So that's still important, to be able to get those radio waves, see where objects might be. But LiDAR uses lasers to bounce a signal. The laser goes out to an object, comes back. And so it gives you a much quicker and much full, for lack of a better term, concept of where various obstacles are, walls, that sort of thing. So it's constantly bouncing these lasers. And the other aspect of it is with LiDAR, it's much quicker to determine distances because light, it moves at a very constant speed. Thus the C in E equals MC squared, right? And it moves at a constant speed. So when a laser signal goes to something, bounces back, it's instantly measurable. And because of the constancy of the speed of light from the laser, it's easy to be able to, determine, okay, here's the distance here. That was one of the first things when the Apollo astronauts basically set up experiments on the moon. One of the first things they did was essentially put an early version of that up. They put up a big reflecting dish, and then they used lasers on Earth to bounce signals up to the moon and back, and that's where they started to get the hyper-accurate measurements of the moon's distance from the Earth. Well, it's that technology now, sort of refined and reformed a little bit into the autonomous driving element of it. And it's just these constant innovations that come along. And then, of course, the quality, of the coding and everything that happens, but also the capacity and the speed of the computers. And that's a huge thing. And it's difficult to see just because of, the cover that sits on top of the equipment in the driver cockpit there. But underneath that, and you can see there's optical cameras and the LiDAR and the radar and all that. But down underneath there, it's basically like a rack, just a computer rack with various different components. The computers, other elements are just mounted into racks. And, basically there's a lot of Ethernet cables that when you look at them, it looks like you could have got those from, your local Best Buy even. That are running it. But that's one of the concepts here is, to try and do this massively amazing technology with, stuff that is easily accessible so that quicker than you might otherwise have thought, you're able to do this stuff at a more reasonable budget. Now, the cars themselves are, that's a big expenditure. This is a full-on Indy Next, one level beneath a full-on Indy car. So that's a big expenditure. But the concept is, let's get all of the computing technology, all of the sensing technology to be able to be as fast as we can brought down into the realm of reasonable cost. And that's part of the challenge part of the Indy Autonomous Challenge. They found just hooked it to the upper suspension and are bringing the IU Luddy car in. But before they had their little communication failure, they put up an astoundingly fast lap for these conditions. And you can see there's still some of that sticker left on the tire. So if we wouldn't have had quite the wind we have, and if it would have been a bit warmer, I think the speeds we would have been seeing out of those cars would have been absolutely remarkable. But the fact that they were able to put up a near 160 mile an hour average lap in these conditions is simply extraordinary. It really is. All right, our next competitor making its way out. This looks like it's the Auburn University car. That is Autonomous Tiger Racing. And there it goes, starting to pick up a little bit of pace. And they know the challenge now. They've seen it. They have watched the first two cars, robots, if you will, head out and put up some pretty solid numbers. 143 mile an hour lap, then 158 mile an hour lap from IU Luddy. And I've been talking about the wings and the underbody on the car, but we've been getting some great shots of in between the front and rear tires in the lower part of the car. It almost looks like the car hit something and has got these warped components in it, but that is all part of the black art of aerodynamics and managing the air, and every one of those little ripples on those side pods down low are there by design to channel the air, make it move, do what you want it to do. Now you can hear that was a pretty aggressive throttle pickup there. For the Auburn University Autonomous Tiger Racing machine. And these cars, by the way, are called the IAC AV24. And it's a modified version of, as we were saying, the Dallara Indy Next chassis. He started with what they called the AV21, which was just an earlier version of the chassis. And then Dallara upgraded the chassis for their Indy Next program. And then a few of the cars were modified to be able to use the robotic equipment, and thus the AVI 24. Like I said, 500 horsepower. It's a four-cylinder turbo with a lot of boost. All right, starting to see speeds now up over 120. Be interesting to see what they are opting to do. As their first lap was about 97.5 mile an hour average. See what kind of pattern the car is going to run. In the normal pattern you want for outright speed is, the whole idea is to make the arc through the corners as open and wide with less angle to it as possible, because as soon as you tighten the angle up in a corner, you start to actually, scrub speed just a little bit. So the more open a line you can run, wide into the corner, ease your way down to the apex or the inside part of the corner, then flow out to the wall. That's generally going to give you the best speed. But whether it's robot at the helm, if you will, or human drivers, the more you get down to that inside, the closer you get, and the higher you get to that wall on the exit, the risk factor goes up. Look at that on their third lap. They've gone to 1:35.8. Nobody has been that fast this early. So Autonomous Tiger Racing. And look at that. Now they're already up over almost to 152 miles an hour. There it is. Just touching it. Maintaining that 152 through the turns. Even saw 153 there for a second. So they have dropped the hammer early here. Where do they go? 147.9 on their fourth lap. That is just extraordinary. Look at the average speed, or the speeds now through the turns. 160 plus. Haven't seen it dip beneath that. Now it does, but only to 159. Now back into the 160 range. I've seen it up at 161 a couple of times here, so they might be right near a 160 mile an hour average lap as early as lap 5. What do they do? 156.4 on lap 5. On their 5th lap, they're 2 miles an hour away from fast time. On the straights, they were just moving about 164 down the straights. They're into the 162 range, up on the banking, 22-degree banking. Now the 9-degree banking through the tri-oval. This should be over 160, I would think. Oh, so close. 159.7. That's the fastest time thus far. And now look at the speeds. They're up at 168. 169. They just ticked 170 on the straights. Heard that little chirp. Came off the throttle just a little bit. Here we go. Do they do it? Do they crack 160? It should be with ease. 163.6. Autonomous Tiger Racing is absolutely flying here, folks. Aggressive little wiggle there. See that little wiggle? So they are on the edge. See that car hunting a little bit for turn in here. Still giving themselves a fair amount of room up to that outer wall, but getting much closer down to that inner line than some of the others. Lost a little bit, only about a mile an hour there. Went from 163.6 to 162.6. There you can hear that little, and when you hear that noise, that means that the car has come off the throttle a little bit. And what that does, one of the real basics of physics, and when it really comes down to it, look at that high line and diving down to the apex here. They're being really aggressive here. But a fast lap in a race car, whether it's driven by a robot or a human pilot, it's all physics. It's a lesson in applied physics. And when the car comes off the throttle, it transfers the weight forward. Think about it. When you're driving your personal car, and you lift off the throttle abruptly, the nose dives a little bit. And if you hit the brake, it really dives. Conversely, when you give it gas aggressively, the back squats. Well, that is called weight transfer. And most of these cars, as I said, are set up with an inherent push because for an autonomous robotic pilot, it's much easier to deal with a push where you go into a turn and you feel the front end suddenly starting to push or not wanting to turn. And it's an immediate, the computers can immediately sense, okay, we've exceeded that limit there a little bit. And the minute the car pushes, you start scrubbing speed, right? Because the car's not responding to steering input, so that means the front tires are scrubbing a little bit. And it's a much easier thing to do than just breathe gently off the throttle to get a slight bit of weight to transfer to the front end of that car and bring the bite back to the front a little bit. If you got a car that's loose, or if you come off the throttle too abruptly and that front end really bites and you've got input into the front wheels, back end's going to snap. And it's much more difficult for a robotic program to save a slide from the back of the car than it is a push from the front. But I got to tell you, the aggressiveness of the line that they use right here is where we've been seeing it way up high and then diving down. I think what they're trying to do is to say, okay, we've watched what the other competitors have done. We know what lines they're doing. Let's see if we can create a little bit better pattern out there that will generate a little bit more speed for us. And speed they had, and they found it really early. That was the impressive part of this whole thing. I mean, they were up into the 150s on lap 5, and everybody else was lap 7, 8 in there. And eventually it went to that 163.6 for the fast time. Just doing an incredible job. And now the car moves down. It's all part of their programming. So 163.7 ended up being the best lap time here for Tiger Autonomous Racing. That was impressive. And again, they were up into the 150s by lap 5. So not only did they get the fast time, but they got up in that 150 mile an hour range well sooner than anybody else did out there. So they've got to be absolutely delighted. And again, folks, I can't stress enough how cold it is out there. And you can see right there how strong the breeze is. I was looking at that car as it came in. Yeah, and they pushed it hard enough that they got rid of all of the stickers on those tires, the white lines that go down the middle when the mold release is on is there. And look at that outside front tire. Look at the inside. They had, the camber that they used to set up for that. Very, very impressive. They obviously were aggressive on that right front tire. And I'll tell you what, Shay, I think what they did here, they had this car set up a little bit more aggressive in setup just by what I'm seeing from the tires. And it paid off getting the tire ready for speed sooner, I think, Shay.
Agree with that, Greg. And it's funny because in football, for example, you can ice the kicker by making them think about what's coming up a little bit longer. Not the case here because your driver was effectively the same as it would have been if we hadn't had a delay before. But the nerves for the team, how much better do you feel now that the run is done?
I feel so much adrenaline turning. It's from stress right into just like a quick heartbeat and like, oh my God, what just happened? We're done. It's always joy after we get done with this.
You said that you've been here quite a bit in December testing. These conditions, though, are they similar to anything you've run in before?
No, this is actually pretty different. The last 3 days we've had incredibly high wind. It dropped down a little bit yesterday whenever we were doing some testing, and then, you know, even worse today than it was yesterday in testing. So we actually got up to 170 in testing without wind. A little bit different today, but we're still really happy with our speed.
Pleased with the distribution that you were able to put out today on the track and everything that the team was able to accomplish?
Oh, absolutely. And we're also very proud of the other two teams that we competed with. They did impressive, beat all of their speed records that they'd had on this track already. So really happy to be part of it. And also thanks to our sponsors who made it possible for us to be out here today. We couldn't do it without them.
Awesome job.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The growth of these teams that in these conditions can go out and not just barely break their previous speed records, but obliterate them, essentially. That just speaks volumes about what these teams, the evolution of their programs, working on the coding, working on car setup, working on dynamics, all of that. And I love it, Shay, that here in Las Vegas, you got a football reference in, because this is where your Raiders play. So well played. Well done. All right. Next car making its way out onto Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And now we move from the speed runs into the passing competition. And just to give you a little bit of a rundown about how this works, is 2 cars will come out, and one will be the leader, one will be what's called the attacker. And they have certain speed settings, if you will, that are programmed into the cars that are part of the regulations of this concept. Usually the first one is 100 miles an hour. Now, with these wind conditions, they might drop that. We'll have to get a clarification on that. So the lead car, whatever that speed number is, will be lapping at an average speed of, let's say, 100 miles an hour, right? And so the attacking car, the one that is behind it, when it closes up to within 5-6 car lengths of the lead car, at a certain point there will be a waving green indicating that the attacking car now has 1 lap to be able to execute a safe pass and close it out. You can't just get ahead and then have something happen, the car slides or something, and the other car goes by. You've got to complete and close out the pass. Then that attacking car, once it makes the pass, becomes the lead car, drops to that 100 mile an hour speed, and the other car becomes the attacking car. Once it gets within 5-6 car lengths, gets the green flag, then it has a lap to execute its pass. And if they both do that at 100 miles an hour, it'll jump to 110. And we go through the program again. If they both execute that, it goes to 120. And what eventually determines the winner is when the attacking car cannot make the pass. That's assuming that the lead car has made the pass. So that's the issue. And so if one of the cars makes the pass at a certain speed, and then the other car cannot come back and make the pass at that average speed being run by the lead car, the competition ends. But it's amazing because now, along with all of those components, the optical, the LiDAR, the radar, the GPS, having just to negotiate driving around the racetrack at the best speed possible, now you've got to incorporate where is that other car. And so as you close up on the back of it to try and affect the pass, the car itself has to look and go, okay, it looks like there's more room to the outside, so I will attempt to make the pass there. Or, nope, the car, I've been watching it, it continues to exit wide, so I want to square that corner up a little bit and come down and make the pass on the inside. And so this is taking everything we just saw in those speed runs to the next highest level, right? Now you're incorporating another vehicle and having to drive around it and do it safely. And within a certain time frame. You don't just get a bunch of laps. So let's see here. 2 cars are out there at this stage. It's Purdue AI Racing chasing AI Racing, it's AI Racing Tech. that is pursuing Purdue AI Racing. And AI Racing Tech is pretty close now. And this is the part now when the car is quite literally the computer in the cockpit, if you will, the robot, is doing its studying. Where do I want to affect this pass? Which way do I want to go? It's literally sort of learning on the fly. Now you hear that big rev increase? That's going to be the pass. That's going to be the move. There they go. And now they close that pass out. Well done. Well done. Now what's going to, and I think the speed, yeah, that's what I thought. Because of these conditions, I think the speed of the lead car in this first round is 80 miles an hour. So now the car that was the attacker has moved past. It now will have to drop and just lap at about, 80 mile an hour average. And the other car, when it is given the green flag, now it has to make the pass. And this is why it changes up, right? So now Purdue AI is the attacking vehicle. The second car in your frame. And now it starts doing the studying. It's really impressive, just the technology that they employ in this. Okay, Purdue giving itself a little bit of time here to try and get up there and make this their attempt. The thing is, you can't make your move until the officials say, all right, you're in you're close enough. The gap is where it should be. And that is then when you can start and make your move. And well done. Slides through. Closes it out. So I'm going to have to watch here and see what the next speed level. In certain competitions, that speed jumps by 20 miles an hour, but I think again with these conditions, they might be a little bit more circumspect and have the speed jump be 10 miles an hour. All things that were rumored as possibility. So now essentially we're into the second of the go rounds. And it is AI Racing Tech doing the attacking, doing the chasing. And we're up at 100. So they did a 20 mile an hour jump from 80 to 100. And here we go. AI Racing Tech has made the decision. Opts for that high line, had been watching the Purdue AI machine running a little bit lower line and opted to get through and look like they have closed it out. So now AI Racing Tech will drop to a 100 mile an hour average, and it'll be up to Purdue to come by and do it. And again, at Indianapolis, when it's a bigger track and we didn't have wind and it was warmer, I think the passing competition, the final speed barrier was 160 miles an hour. And again, there are no drivers on these cars, so these robots, these computers operating on coding and then learning and studying based on the algorithms that are built in, at 160 plus miles an hour, we're able to run down, catch the car in front, execute a safe pass. I mean, that's remarkable. Interestingly, though, Purdue, now they're starting to find the speed, picking it up just a little bit, looking for the position to make the pass. And here they come. They're through, and they close it out. So both cars have successfully passed the 100 mile an hour, and you can see immediately jumping up. Wow. AI Racing Tech just dropped the hammer there, didn't they, for a minute? Went to 135 and then backed off, but they didn't want to drop too far back behind Purdue, because what happens is that at a certain point, if you can't maintain close enough, at a certain point, you just run out of time. There is a time limit on being able to execute. So we're now at 120 mile an hour, and look at AI Racing Tech, not wasting any time, closing up on Purdue. And you may be wondering, you know, Purdue seems to be giving them an easy route. And I'd asked this before at Indy. I said, are these teams? Beautiful run there by AI Racing Tech, up to 140 plus miles an hour as they swept through to make their first attempt at 120, click. And I said, are these teams devious enough to try and, you know, just run right down the middle of the track and make it difficult for the others to go? And didn't get a yes or no answer, but I got a lot of sort of wry smirks. But right now, Purdue is giving plenty of room to AI Racing Tech. And in these conditions, I actually think that might be more of a self-preservation scenario here, because understand, folks, these cars are really expensive, the cars. And then, you know, the computer components and all of that, but the cars, you know, you get cars that are capable of 180, 190 mile an hour speeds. That's going to be an expensive piece of equipment. And so in these conditions, the wind and the cold, I think giving your competitors plenty of room, because if you do make it difficult for them to get through, and they, you know, their car senses something off a little bit suddenly and drifts across, and you guys come together, well, you pay the price too. And Purdue completes beautiful pass. So both of them have successfully gone to the 120 range here and completed their passes. Now we go to 130, I believe. It's 80 to 100, 100 to 120, and then it goes to 10 mile an hour increments for the next two attempts, and then it might go to 5. But again, as you can see, AI Racing Tech doing the attacking and Purdue staying way down low, giving them room. Here we go, AI Racing Tech. You can hear that throttle pickup, building some speed, using that high line, coming through, pass and close. Beautiful job by AI, using that nice high line. You can hear the chirps, boy, can't you, when they both get out of the throttle there? So a nice job there. So once again, AI now, in that beautiful blue and white machine, they now will start setting a 130 average speed pace, and it's Purdue AI Racing that now becomes the attacker. I've announced a lot of racing over the years, and every time I watch this, it literally blows me away to know there's not a driver inside this car. Really is remarkable. So now Purdue starting to pick it up. They chose their spot to start the attack. Here we go. Building speed, building speed, building speed. Are they going to get it done before the turn? They do. Ooh, a little closer than we've seen. And look at the reaction for Purdue. So both teams have successfully done the 130 passing drill. And believe me, folks, you see that reaction. That's completely understandable as we move to 140 now, because as these speed increments go up, the challenge becomes far more difficult because, remember, everything is coming at these computers, these robots now, much faster. So the processing has to be done quicker. I'll tell you, AI are just really ramping the speed up through that corner, the exit of 3 and 4, clearly through by the time they got to what would be the start-finish line here. That was a tremendous pass by AI. They sure seem very comfortable on that high line. Purdue just continues to just hug the inside a little bit. And now Purdue, as AI runs about 140, Purdue has got to find a way through. Both these cars running really different lines. Again, I think that is just self-preservation. Let's just give each other a bit of room out here. If a gust of wind happens and the car shifts a little bit, we don't need them coming together. All right, Purdue, not quite ready yet. So they're at the point now where they need to get after it here. And they have not been able to accelerate and really make a move here. And there is a time limit here, so Purdue's got to get after it. Purdue using that inside line. It's a little shorter line around the track, but sometimes that high line, it's a more open line. But here comes Purdue dropping the hammer, 158, but they haven't closed it out. They did not close that out. And you could see suddenly concern on those faces. So Purdue's now, they've got to, that computer has got to figure it out, get up close, and be a little closer before they start that run. And I think time may have elapsed. Time may have elapsed. Both cars starting to slow down. So AI Racing looks like they may have just claimed the passing challenge. It's just an extraordinary display of technology here. And I know I'm just coming back to it constantly, but with the wind we have, with the cold temperatures, to be having this kind of speed in these conditions is just remarkable. Now we start to get some big sun on certain parts of the track. You can see up on the top of the roll hoop a number of the sensing elements. And just underneath that cover, you can see in this car, the blue cover, you can see that little gap at the front. That's where some of the radar and LiDAR is. That is a happy group right there. AI Racing Tech. Just a fabulous job. Cars now working their way with their programming as they start to make their way down into the pits. Purdue gave it everything, but they just, on that last run, they got there, but they got the nose ahead right as they were coming into a turn, and you could hear the chirp, and the car just backed out of it a little bit more, and the AI car just motored back around the outside. And like I said, it's not just getting the nose in front. You've got to close that pass out. All right, and Shay is standing by with our our passing drill winner, AI Racing Tech.
Congratulations on the win, first and foremost. When we last left Indianapolis, it was a less happy occasion for your team. How good does this feel?
Oh, this is just amazing. We've worked so hard. These students have worked so hard to prepare first for Indianapolis, and then to have that great disappointment of a failure of the communication system and the GPS, and then to come here and have everything just be exactly like we planned it, exactly like we wanted to see it. It was just an amazing experience.
And to win the passing competition on such a big stage as well, doesn't that make it even better for the students and the sponsors?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've lucky enough we've finished second and third in other passing competitions, but we'd never won the passing competition. So this puts that final step of the podium in place, and we're very happy for that. Congratulations on today. Can't wait to see what you do next. Oh, keep an eye on us. We have a whole bunch of teams in our cross site.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.
I love that optimism and that approach, saying we're not done. There's more to come here, and we're going after them. And, it's that type of energy, that type of enthusiasm, that type of optimism that allows you to make these big gains. They were third, and then they were second, and now they get their first win. And to me, doing it in probably the most difficult conditions imaginable has just got to add that little bit of what's the word, gravitas, if you will, to their achievement, and just make it all the more special. So I'm just taking a look here. From my understanding, I think our multi-car exhibition win and again I have to point out, folks, this is the first time this has ever happened. So it was always set up to be just an exhibition, just to see how it works. And I think that ends up really being an even wiser move, again, considering these conditions. But 4 cars will take to the track in an effort to run 20 laps and actually race. Now, it's not going to be, I think, it's an exhibition, as I said, first time it's being attempted, so I don't think we're going to see massive aggression or any craziness out there. But now it's multi-cars on the track, so everything I talked about what had to be happening from the speed competition where it was just you on the track, just one robot on the track, to the passing with 2 robots on the track and having to not just be able to understand the line and speed, but now also be able to read what the car in front of you is doing and be able to adjust, figure out a way to make a pass. Now you add 2 more robots that you have to deal with and work through. So this is the first time, this is history, quite literally being made here in the Indy Autonomous Challenge here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And what a perfect place to do it. And I mean with the affiliation as part of the Consumer Electronics Show. Just a massive show that's going on in Las Vegas itself. The convention center is just through the roof right now. And this is all part and parcel of the CES show. But obviously, this was the one spot where these cars could come out and really stretch their legs a little bit, if you will. So there is the Polymove car, Polytechnicum Milano, Michigan State, Polymove MSU with the University of Alabama. We'll also have KAIST, the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. We will have the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia, and that is Unimore Racing. And then Cavalier Autonomous Racing from University of Virginia. Those will be the 4 cars. So we've got the cars that are queuing up, and before we actually get this 20-lap exhibition underway, I want to get back down to Shay, who has an interview with a very important player in Indy Autonomous Challenge competition.
Well, DSPACE has really stepped up their involvement with IAC, and Peter Walterman from DSPACE is here. First and foremost, why join Indy Autonomous Challenge? What is the benefit to DSPACE?
So first of all, it is of course the technology that is increased using our systems that are used in normal cars and for different applications in the technology area, now going to the edge, going to fast speeds, to high computational power. We just found out that we have the right hardware to support the teams, and we stepped in when they thought they need stronger hardware, better hardware. And this is the most important topic for us, why we think this is something we should get engaged. And we are very happy. We are in the 3rd year now to support the teams. And this is the first thing. The Altera system from DSPACE is the brain, is the driver. So all the teams program our software and hardware and use the hardware to really get these features that we see right now happening. And this is just exciting, and it's fun,
What sort of gratification is it for you and for everyone from the company? It's one thing when people tell you the software is working well. It's another when you see it on the racetrack.
Well, it's both. I mean, it is just the understanding. They use it wisely. We have super competitive international teams that are really doing they're the best in their areas, and they are using our equipment. For us, of course, the motivation is, first of all, we get these important tools to universities, because we eventually know they go into industry, they have experience with DSPACE, they know DSPACE, and they want to continue to use that. And let me say, in addition to the brain that is in the car, we're also providing the teams with software solutions so that they can virtual racetracks, virtual races, and virtual racing. And this is very important. It sounds like a computer game, but it's much more, because they are using it really with their own software in combination with a simulated other cars, with simulated track and so on. And that's very exciting. And this is another step forward. And this is just the motivation that we have to invest in this competition. And we are happy to be the head sponsor this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, having their support and participation. And, it's not just, funding and that sort of thing. It's the technology that they bring to the game that just elevates the whole program as well. And that's a big, big part of this. And I also really, really was sort of taken by the comment there about there's an energy, right? Shay brought up a great question of being at the track and seeing it applied like this, and seeing it done in real time. But his comment about the computing power, and I was talking about the terabytes of data, and I was talking about how the processing speeds at when you're at 160 miles an hour, how quick this processing has to be done, and that processing speed development, if you will, is just massive. It's absolutely massive, and it's critical, for everything moving down the road into the future. The faster the computer can process and work through these the computing speed, the more can be achieved. It's that simple, and it's just great to have them as a part of it here. And I love the name too, just DSPACE. You think about what they do, it's perfect. But we move now from a couple of moments of incredibly impressive performance to a moment of genuine history being made. And this is the first time I've had more than 2 cars on the track at a time in a racing simulation. And one of the things that he was talking about that Shay was talking about as well, was the simulation. You know, getting into a sim and being able to, you know, have a sim that's modeled around these cars, and you know, have them set up and have the same software, the coding, all of that. And the sims nowadays, folks, if you're not familiar with it, are just extraordinary. You can really almost replicate, you know, pretty much anything. And so you have the sims built and the cars going out and testing. And yes, you know, it provides great information and all that, but here's where the sim part of it really earns its keep, if you will, is to be able to just go out and test. You know, to be able to say, all right, we're going to bring our car and we're going to test for 2 days at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The daily rental fee for a racetrack is really high, really high. So you want to do that for 2 days. You know, you're going to try and find a couple other teams and go, let's test together to help, you know, split the cost just a little bit. But it's still extremely expensive. In a sim, you can test for 2 weeks and do it for a fraction of the cost. So that's where the sim training comes in. Then on top of it, when you've simmed, pretty much you've gamed out almost anything you could possibly think of when you get to the track. You're just ahead of the curve and ready to get after it. And in the process, of course, you learn a lot. And, you know, going back to, I mentioned the thing about Apollo 11 and their first experiment they laid out. You know, they wouldn't have been able to make it to the moon without massive simulation. And they had to literally invent that level of quality of sim training. But, you know, they figured that something along the lines of every moment spent in space in that era was $500,000 for every minute or something along those lines. You couldn't just say, okay, we're going to build and launch 50, 60 Saturn V's and Apollo capsules and the like to figure out how we're actually going to eventually do this. It had to be done in sim or it would never have been done because the costs were so prohibitive. And at a lower level, that's sort of the same thing here. You can sim and learn a lot with a lot less cost involvement. And when we're talking about robotics and computing, that's what simming is. That's what sims are. So it's just a natural symbiotic relationship. Now there's a look at just how chilly it is here. You can see the wind, but when you got the heavy coat on, the face mask, the hat underneath the hood, it's brisk here today, folks. It's really, really chilly. Here we are, the city that never sleeps, fabulous Las Vegas. Took a little drive on the Strip last night just to see it, and the one thing I wanted to see, because I'd never seen it in person, was the Sphere. Folks, it lives up to what you think it might be. It's pretty awesome. We'll be back to Las Vegas Motor Speedway in just a minute.
Indiana is putting the future of mobility in the fast lane, as you'd expect from the home of the Indy 500. We're leaders for AI and autonomous driving because our intelligence is not artificial. And we're steering toward a sustainable future with more than $13 billion invested in Indiana electric vehicles. Did you catch all of that? Or should we go again? Try to keep up.
For over a century, Indiana has been the destination for sports innovation and the state where champions are crowned. Now, we're entering a new era with Sports Tech HQ, a place that inspires innovation and invests in entrepreneurs who are changing the game, one startup at a time. Welcome to the crossroads of sports and technology. Sports Tech HQ, home of the game changers.
I just love this setting. Not too far from here is a state park called Valley of Fire, which is absolutely amazing. Just cut into the beautiful Red Rock and Rock Hills here. If you go just a little bit north of this area a bit, there is a pretty high mountain range that this time of year will have a lot of snow on it, and they actually got some skiing. It's an absolutely beautiful area. And one of the other things that you often see here when you're at this track or you're just driving out in this area, Nellis Air Force Base is not far away at all, and it is home to the Thunderbirds. And I've been fortunate a couple of times to be out here and either just be out sightseeing, driving out in the mountains or whatever, and all of a sudden the Thunderbirds come out and do a practice run. And everything stops, cars off on the shoulder, and talk about high tech there. So there's just a lot that sort of folds into it here in this part of the country. And you can look at just the amount of data, the coding that's going on. I'm curious what that note bags means. And that could be an acronym for something. Like Las Vegas Motor Speedway, LVMS, Elvis. Here you see the infield, part of the infield road course that has seen sports car competition. Driving schools here as well. And just off to the right of this shot this is now owned by Bruton Smith's company, and they have a Z-Max 4-lane drag strip back there. There is a dirt short track called the Bull Ring. It's a huge plot of land out here, and they have made great use of it. And one thing you are always going to see with these robots is power tentacles connected. One to supply power, two data transfer. So our four competitors are queued up and ready to go. And again, this is an exhibition, and it is the first time. And I am absolutely positive that race control is being very, very cautious here, again, because of these conditions. And I know I've been just beating it, but it is so crucial here with the wind and these cold temperatures. It just really creates a huge challenge for one car to be out by itself just running around. And so I'm sure they are just making sure everything is at optimum setting here before we go. This is scheduled to be a 20-lap race. Lap race exhibition. I should be a little bit more specific with. This is a 1.5 mile track. Like I said, it's called an intermediate speedway. And when this was originally built back in 1996, was actually built, the banking and the turns was 12 degrees. And then when IMS, or when Speedway Motorsports bought it, Bruton Smith's group, in 2006, just before he bought it, and I think it was done to improve the racing on the track, they made big changes and went from the 12 degrees up to 20 degrees. And that 20 degrees, it does two things, and it's a graduated 20 degrees. So the higher you run, the little bit more banking you get. And the theory with that is it allows cars to be, and we've seen it here, to be able to run side by side, and not just have it be what's called a one lane or one groove track, which makes passing difficult. And so they have been continuing to evolve here. And, one other aspect of this, we're talking about all the technology in the car, from the motor to the computing to all of the optical technology, the coding. But every input that this car has, whether with a driver behind the wheel or whether robotically controlled, every input from speed, throttle, braking, turning, downforce, all of that has to transfer down to the track through 4 small contact patches of tire rubber. Tires often make the event. And let's hear a little bit more about the tires that are on these remarkable cars.
Welcome to CES 2024, where we exhibit FleetCar's suite of solutions. This is the visualization of historical transformation of Bristol from tire producer into mobility provider.
By being here, we're able to A, showcase our intentions to contribute to the future of mobility, but furthermore, we have the opportunity to collaborate and meet with some of the other thought leaders in the space so that we can really drive that advancement together.
One thing I love about CES is that we are able to bring together our global team into one place. You see Bridgestone commitment, vision, strategy, and business coming alive in this booth. Part of our FleetCar offering, tires, tire solutions, telematics, and service is that these solutions and these products have a huge impact on the sustainability journey of our customers. They have a huge impact on safety, on efficiency, on productivity, and uptime. And it's really the combination and integration of all of it that has a huge impact when it comes to sustainability. Of course, racing is where our materials get stretched the most. We have a way to really put our material science and material competence to work in extreme conditions. And of course, yes, use those findings to be applied to the everyday cars and trucks on the road.
Indy Autonomous Challenge is really an applied research initiative that's bringing top university talent together with leading industry partners to test and validate high-speed automation. Indy Autonomous Challenge would not exist if it wasn't for industry partnerships. Bridgestone has stepped up from the very beginning and witnessed that Indy Autonomous Challenge and the talented students that are using their technology are the innovators of the future.
Motorsport is in our DNA. Motorsport is something that we have done since day one, and it continues to be that proof point. And the reason we're still doing it at even greater levels and a greater commitment is so that we showcase that global, premium, sustainable vision and how to bring it to life and how to develop those technologies and accelerate that development.
We have been living the same mission, serving society with superior quality for 100 years. But what's powerful is that we're able to live that purpose, that mission, that vision in new and exciting ways that are ultimately going to lead to greater value for not just our customers, but also society as a whole.
You heard them say in there that racing allows you to test things in extreme conditions because the racetrack, when it comes to automotive components, is a high-speed laboratory. And I think I heard it was for tires, and the reason that tire companies get involved in racing is that they are capable of learning from one weekend of racing about tires what it would take for over a year of just normal driving on a highway because it accelerates everything. It pushes you to extremes much sooner. And so that's why they get involved with this. And it isn't just a matter of, all right, we're going to generate as much grip as we can. Sure, you want that, but that doesn't really help much on a road car that is just so grippy that it's slow, right? And the problem is you want to have something in terms of a tire that is reliable, that works in a variety of different conditions, and that generates as little rolling friction as possible so that your fuel consumption drops. And if you have a tire that tends to have a lot of rolling friction, is just too grippy, that causes your fuel consumption to go up. So there's lots of different elements that are applied here. And of course, you want tires that are resilient and safe. You want your family out on a set of tires. Oh, this is a shame. This is Polymove, and they are one of the absolute favorites here. And apparently they had a problem out there. Don't know if it was just another one of the communication scenarios. But we've just received word from Race Control that the other three cars will start moving here and start this 20-lap exhibition run. If Polymove can get their problem resolved, they will come out and join the event. Now, again, I keep wanting to call it a competition, but in this case, it's an exhibition. There isn't going to be a winner. The winner here today will be if all four cars get out there, run well, show capability to pass and repass, and all come back into the pits and paddock area in one piece. That's the win today. It's not going to be one particular robot over the others. This is an exhibition to show what this might be able to do here. And the other thing here that I haven't really addressed, I've talked about how the shadows on the track and the sunlight on the track affect the heat of the track and therefore the grip, how the tires react and all of that. But remember, all of the decisions that these cars are making, yes, some of it's LiDAR, which is laser, which isn't affected by shadow. And certainly you got radar, which isn't affected by shadow. But all the optical sensors certainly are. And so when a car goes from bright sunlight into shadow, there's that bit of computing power that has to be employed there as well for the robot to be able to make that adjustment. And you can see lots of chat on the radio here from where the team is based in the pit lane, and working on trying to generate some quick coding fix to get that car back out again. So Polymove is going to have to start in just a little bit here, but Keist will be out there, Unimore Racing will be out there, and Cavalier Autonomous Racing will be out there as well. It's going to be fascinating here. We saw in that overtaking or the passing exercise competition, one of the cars just stayed low, the other one stayed high. Are we going to see something similar here? Again, just due to the conditions and everything, to say, look, we just want to bring all these cars home. Yes, we want to be able to pass, but we don't want it to have to be difficult and therefore high risk. So are the cars all going to be fairly careful with running different lines, or are they going to get out there and go after it here just a little bit, be a little bit more aggressive? Well, we will find out. There is the number 4. Looks like everybody's just sort of doing a warm-up pace right now. You can see that pink area underneath that hood, and then okay, that was just that's what I was hoping was just happening. It was just warming up the cars, warming up the tires a little bit, and now they're going to form up for an official exhibition race start. And they've got all the stuff hooked up to Polymove here. Trying to figure out what the issue might be. That's a car that has been extremely good in the competitions to date. You hate to see them sitting on the sidelines. They won, actually, the passing competition at Indy last fall. So one would have thought and at an extraordinary speed, almost 170 miles an hour. So one would have thought they would have been among the heavy favorites here in this exhibition. That Cavalier Racing machine, the number 9, carrying those University of Virginia colors. Getting ready and getting into their formation. All right, here we go. All the cars looking pretty good here at this moment. So Cavalier Autonomous Racing, or CAR. That seems pretty fitting, doesn't it? We'll be starting in the 3rd spot. All right, we're coming to start finish, and this will be it. We are green. The first ever multi-car racing exhibition with more than 2 cars for a simple passing drill on the track is underway. Keist, Unimore Racing, and Cavalier Autonomous Racing. And again, I'm just really curious what we're going to see in terms of aggression here. And what kind of speeds we're going to see. That's going to be the really intriguing thing. And we just got word Polymove might be joining the pack here. There it goes. Great news. One of the favorites out there right now, it is Team Keist on point at this stage. Here comes Polymove. That is the number 5 making its way out. That is so great to see that they're going to get out here and be able to do this competition, this exhibition, I should be more accurate in saying. Right now it is Keist, 3.5 second gap. But look at that, in the background, a pass coming. That looks like Cavalier Autonomous trying to get down and make the pass. Don't think they got it done. They were going for the high line here, but now they do. They flow a little bit more speed. And I think Cavalier Autonomous just picked up second. They did, getting around Unimore. And Cavalier Autonomous, that robot, opting for that little higher line. But now it's 5+ second gap to try and run down Keist. Right there. With the speed that Cavalier was able to get up and sneak around on Unimore and running that higher line, I think they've potentially got the pace here in that number 9. And again, remember, they became the first American university program in Indy Autonomous Challenge to win the speed competition. And they did it at Indy in the fall at our most recent Indy Autonomous Challenge event. And I think they learned from some of our previous competitors here that ran that slightly higher line. It's the AI Racing Tech car, if you recall, that ran that high line and won the speed competition. And they look visually a bit quicker here than the number 4 from Keist. The question is going to be, 1, can they get there? And 2, how quickly? Again, it's 20 laps. We've already got 5 in the books. That tells you that their average speeds are pretty darn good, because it wasn't that long ago we started. We're already 5 laps in on a 1.5 mile speedway. Polymove sitting back in that 4 spot. Looks to me like Unimore has really slowed down for a second in the background. And here is Polymove. A lot of ground for them to make up. because that next car behind Polymove is actually Keist, your leader, I believe. But I think the first part of what would be termed a successful exhibition race here was, we already had a successful pass as Cavalier Autonomous got through on Unimore, and then has quickly opened up an 11-second lead on Unimore. That is your leader, Team Keist. Again, the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. This is truly such an international competition. It's just incredible. That's why I love when I hear things that they have gone to Monza and done some racing and put on a show there. It truly is. Here's Cavalier Autonomous. They opened up a big lead over Unimore, but it doesn't look like they're still at 6.5 seconds back of Keist. So Keist is just running some really consistent laps. Now you hear that? One of the cars just gassed it a little bit. Then you hear that chirp, which means they've lifted. There is that number 6. Of Unimore. Well, but Keist, they are just looking at the average speeds here. And every time Cavalier steps it up, just look at the average speed that Keist is running. Just always right in that 100-mile-an-hour range. Dip a little bit below it. And a little bit more. And Cavalier, they're showing some aggressive acceleration on the straight sometimes. But then they seem to drop down. Look at that. At the numbers there, 105. So they're trying to come after it a little bit. But then they just can't maintain it. That margin stays in that 6 or so second range. But we are working lap 9 of 20. So that was Team Keist completing that 9th lap. Here comes. Yeah, they've opened it up. Keist has, but it looks to me like Unimore. Now, one of the things that we really haven't talked about here, folks, is each of these cars were assigned a certain amount of push to pass. If you're familiar with IndyCar racing, you will have heard that. And it's just where, they're basically all running in a sort of almost a spec format here, but they get this little bit of extra grunt, if you will. But if you start at the front, you have less push to pass than you do if you start a little bit farther down the pack. And so, been talking about how Keist has just been able to keep that margin at around 6.5 to 7.5 seconds. But we just get word from race control and the engineering staff that Keist may be near the end of that push to pass quotient. And if Cavalier Autonomous has been a little bit more circumspect in their use of the push to pass, they might have a little bit more for them to be able to utilize here. That's the margin right there. Team Keist just obviously started out front and has been able to maintain that. And I think, obviously that's what we're seeing when we see suddenly those speeds jump like Keist. Look at that, up to 110. So they're giving it one more push to pass blast, but that could be exactly why they're running out here. But we're now past halfway. We've completed 11 of 20. And Keist, with that push to pass, has opened it up to 8.6. In Unimore, though, you know, although they dropped 11 seconds off, they've stayed right there. They've been pretty much matching Cavalier here. It's going to be interesting now as we get into our final 8 laps if Keist has used up that push to pass and the other cars still have a little bit here. And when I say that Unimore is back 11.5 seconds, it's not to Cavalier, that's to Keist. So Unimore right now has been able to sort of match what Cavalier's been doing here. Cavalier able to really stay in that 95 to about 100 range. But Keist has again opened it up to 9.3. So this Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology is really putting on a show here. But as you can see, Unimore now running that really, really tight line down to the inside. As Keist is driving away, Unimore is closing in on Cavalier. That gap was about 5 seconds not that long ago, and it's down to 2 between Cavalier Autonomous and Unimore. And then, of course, Polymove is 3 laps back still. It looks now. Look at Unimore. Look at that. There they go. A little bit of push to pass. They were up at 105 or so. Looked like Cavalier had gone for a little push to pass and a little extra speed, but Unimore responded and kept it right at 3 seconds. Seven laps to go. I'll tell you what, Keist, they have really figured out a great line. They've found a great line, but they have now used up all their push to pass. We get that word from the engineers in race control. Keist is out of push to pass. Now they got a 10-second lead as they used that push to pass, but now if the other teams have anything left, look what Unimore did on that last lap. They took a full second away from Cavalier. So it's only a 2-second gap from Cavalier Autonomous in second and Unimore in third. And what Keist needs to do now, that robot just needs to be super smooth. Don't do anything that will scrub a little speed. Just be very smooth for these last 6 laps. See whether Cavalier or Unimore has enough push to pass to take a run at them here. Let's see. Unimore had gotten it down to 2 seconds on that last lap. Look at this, Cavalier. Boy, they got some, they put some push to pass. Both Cavalier and Unimore did. That gap has gone from 10 seconds to 4, just under 5. Keist to Cavalier. And Unimore is right there, only 2 seconds adrift to Cavalier. Now look at Cavalier, look at that. 106 they just went to. This is it. This is a moment here. They dived down. They had the extra push to pass. And look at that car. It's hunting a little bit. But we have a pass for the lead. Cavalier Autonomous Racing has gone by on Keist. Keist used up their push to pass. Cavalier Autonomous had some left, put it to use late in the run. And now look at Unimore running down low. Do they still have something? Do they have enough to push Keist back just a little bit? Here they come. Unimore going through as we complete 16 to 24 to go. And after leading the whole race, Keist has suddenly dropped to third. So Cavalier Autonomous has that 3-second gap now over Unimore. And the question is, which one of these two now has a little bit more push to pass? Because we've seen that a good squirt on the push to pass in one lap can make up a couple of seconds. You know, that's another part. We talk about all this computer programming power and the like. Is these robots have to decide, do I need to be more judicious on my use of push to pass? Save it, use it later. Unimore's trimmed it again. It was up to 3 seconds. It's now down to just over 2.5. You can hear Unimore accelerating there. And they are continuing to run that shorter line. And I say that because if you're just down pretty much pinned to that white apron, which is what Unimore is doing, you're not running as long a lap. The outer edge of that lap is obviously going to be longer than the more inside, and the speed's at 100 miles an hour. Clearly, Unimore has proven it can stay tucked down a little bit and make that work. And Unimore right now, almost 10 miles an hour quicker than Cavalier Autonomous at this section of the track. When they come to start finish, and we going to see here if they've closed it down anymore. 2 laps to go. Oh, Unimore actually, they had some speed, and then Cavalier, you can see it now. Cavalier has found a little bit more push to pass, and they've opened it up again to that 3-second margin. Working that low line. A lap and a half to go in this exhibition 20-lap race. 4 robots out on a 1.5 mile serious speedway. Sorry, my bad, folks. We're working lap 18, so it'll be 2 to go this time by. What's the gap? It was 3 last time. And, oh boy, did they take a chunk out. They took 1.1 seconds, Unimore did, out of Cavalier's margin. And we are working lap 19 of 20. And Unimore up over 100 miles an hour. Well, Cavalier drops the hammer up at 103, almost 104. As they turn in here. Now Unimore, look at that, 105, 106 as they come around here. And we are coming up to start the final lap of this historical exhibition for Indy Autonomous Challenge. I think that margin's gone up just a little bit. Yep, 2.2. And that was Cavalier. As soon as Unimore picked the pace up, that Cavalier car responded and pushed a little bit more on the push to pass. So it all comes down to this lap. What does Unimore have left? Do they have enough push to pass to be able to make a real attack here? Does Cavalier Autonomous have enough left to defend? Just got word, Cavalier is out of push to pass. But where is Unimore? Do they still have some? Yes! Unimore up at 100 miles an hour. Look at how high Cavalier got there. Unimore pushing, finding a little bit of pace, running a little bit quicker. Now they're back at the same speed. But if Unimore's got anything, they need it now. Here they come! Unimore coming to the line! They are going to win it! Unbelievable! They read their push to pass, used it to perfection, and at the line, Unimore Racing by a car length, maybe, sneaks through on Cavalier Autonomous Racing. Wow! Kais led a large portion of the race, but a bit too aggressive on their push to pass. In Unimore, patient, just stayed close. And that lower line, I think, was a pretty solid strategy. Just a shorter way around the track, so when they went to the push to pass, they weren't traversing as much distance. I didn't catch what the margin was when they came across the line, but a car length, maybe? It was so close. Well, I think by any measure here, this exhibition of multi-car competition, not just lapping for speed, not just a passing drill, all right, now we're being told with the actual exhibition of the race done, they're going to have all the cars bunch up and then just try and see them make a few moves here and there. Just and this is all, this part of it now, well, so is the race, but this part of it is now going to be a data gathering exercise. Get the cars in a pack and start to gather all of that data, those terabytes of data of what the robots are sensing, seeing, if you like, when the cars are in a pack. But I think for that first ever multi-car race, exhibition, even though it was, to have not only a few passes made, but a last lap, last corner pass for the quote-unquote win in the exhibition, I think this is going to be ranked as an absolutely massive success. It has to be. As what we've seen here, folks, in this history-making moment has been nothing less than extraordinary. And you got to feel, of course, for the folks from Polymove MSU, University of Alabama, because we didn't really see what kind of times they were running because they were 3 laps back. But with the success they've had in Indy Autonomous Challenge over the years, you know they would have been right in that scrap. No question. Every one of these teams, I mean, all of them, every one of them that were part of this just fascinating afternoon of competition here, but all of them in this certainly this exhibition, I hope they are incredibly proud of what they've just done. You know, doing the exhibition, showing that these robots can race, and then putting on one that was extremely exciting right to the end. Utilizing strategy, utilizing the computer coding for what line will be the best for a 20-lap race. Working the strategy out on the push to pass. Yeah, just incredibly well done. There we go. Oh, for the cars starting to bunch up a little bit. And I'll tell you what here, coming up on 4:30 local time and being winter time, sun low in the sky, and when the light, look at those, just the richness of that light, and now it hits these cars and they just glow. What a beautiful time of day. What a time to get some spectacular. Ooh, bit of a lock up there. Well, wanted to try those brakes out. Oh, this light is beautiful and just adds a whole other element here. Look at that. for all of you that have tuned in here on the stream for this Indy Autonomous Challenge at CES, I hope you appreciate everything that we have seen today. And I'm going to say it one last time just to make the point. In these conditions, with this level of cold, which heavily affects the grip of these Bridgestone tires, and any tire, when it's really cold out, just loses a bit of efficiency. And these Bridgestones have been absolutely brilliant in the speed competitions, having cars up to 160 plus miles an hour. In these conditions is extraordinary. The passing drills going up to 140 plus miles an hour when it was finally decided. And then this exhibition race, first time ever putting on that kind of a show. Every one of the teams here, just overachievers extraordinaire. And I hope all, look at the light on the mountains in the background, by the way. That's beautiful too. So I hope you all have appreciated this as much as we have, being a part of it and bringing it to you here. And we get word from race control that at the end of this lap, the cars will be making their way down into the pit lane, and shortly thereafter, we will have the awards presentations. Just good-looking cars in general, aren't they? Certainly capable of amazing performance. Here we go. I would certainly think that Paul and the team, Paul Mitchell, the president and CEO of Indy Autonomous Challenge, and his entire team have got to be so proud of what has unfolded today. And I think it's safe to say that, some of the Indy Autonomous Challenge officials, and I think some of the teams, were a bit nervous about these conditions, and particularly about, in these conditions, putting out cars, multiple cars on the track. I'm looking over at race control where all of the officials are and where the team engineers are, and a round of applause is just broken out in that room, and so deservedly so. Just remarkable what we've seen here. Grins everywhere up here, and I know there are grins down there trackside as well. High fives, hugs. Pretty cool moment, folks. And as we talked about, the cars, they always come down to the middle of pit lane and stop, and then they're moved into their pit stall. And I was just talking about how I think Paul Mitchell and his entire Indian Autonomous Challenge team should be absolutely delighted, and Shay, always being on the spot, has found him. Shay?
Well, Paul, that last race, we could not have predicted that it was going to come down to one car length at the end, but how pleased are you with the result of clean racing out on the track as well?
Well, first of all, I think today was a testament to the teams that are involved, the students that are involved, the sponsors that are involved. This is a huge community effort with hundreds of people working year-round to make this happen. Of course, the final first of its kind multi-car race started out a little rough, but in the end, it was really, really cool to see the different strategies and the use of push to pass. We'll increase speeds in the future when we can, but I also want to point out the accomplishments of the other teams. We had a really competitive group of teams running the time trials, 2 brand new teams. Every one of them, I think, hit their top speeds today. And then the Purdue and Berkeley passing competition, that was a first for both of them. So this was an incredible day for Indy Autonomous Challenge, incredible day for the future of autonomous mobility, and couldn't be happier with the results. Maybe if we get a little bit warmer weather here next year, if we can order that up, then we can see a head-to-head race with some higher speeds.
The progress event to event is staggering. To see where we were from the first one of these I came to now, where do we go next?
Well, I mean, we thought the whole goal was to get to this multi-agent racing, right? Is to get physical AI to the point where it can compete with other AI drivers. And we're now just at the beginning of that. And so if you've seen where we've gone in the last 3 years, just imagine 3 years from now where we're going to be. We're really excited about the next race we have coming up. It's going to be in Europe at the Monza F1 circuit in June. And these teams will be there, and we'll see how head-to-head racing goes on a road course.
And a speed record attempt as well coming up in February, too. There's so much.
That's right. We already hold the land speed record. We think it's time to break it again and go past that 200-mile-per-hour mark.
So fans of autonomous racing, stay tuned in because Indy Autonomous Challenge isn't done yet.
Yeah, not by a long shot. And I think he's absolutely right. You know, every one of the 3 tiers that we saw today, the speed competition, the passing drill competition, and then the racing in the exhibition was just phenomenal. And there you can see the cars. Right before we were getting ready to go today, we were doing the team introductions, and they're all covered up pretty good in terms of warm jackets and hats because it was brisk here, but we got after it. And it didn't take long. Caltech went out and put in a really, really solid run and got into a really good battle. Then the passing competition was just superb. And I think we got all the way up to 140 plus miles an hour before it was Purdue just could not get that repass made. And then we staged the cars, the robots, for the first ever multi-race competition, a multi-car competition with actual racing. And it was Team Keist that went out early. And then we had this little battle here between these 2 cars that put in a good one. And that was where Team Keist had run out of push to pass, and Cavalier Autonomous came after him. Didn't take long either at that point. And then here was the run to the line, and it was a car length. Just doesn't get much closer than that. And that was an absolutely fabulous first ever multi-car racing exhibition to show what is possible with Indy Autonomous Challenge. And as Paul Mitchell said, more to come, going after speed records, road race racing at Monza, so much more. And we're doing it all here. And of course, I'm sure a number of these teams and team members, when they get everything buttoned up, will be heading right toward that monolith of lights and excitement and energy in Las Vegas. But that wraps up our coverage of the 2025 Indy Autonomous Challenge at the CES, the Consumer Electronics Show here at fabulous Las Vegas and Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Congratulations to all of our teams in the Indy Autonomous Challenge. Congratulations to the organizers of Indy Autonomous Challenge. And a big thank you, as always, to Shea Adam for doing such incredible work down there. And I also want to say a big thanks to Apex Productions for doing the coverage of this absolutely revolutionary and fascinating exercise in technology. I'm Greg Creamer. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having you back again when next Indy Autonomous Challenge takes to the track. We'll see you then.